Hi, fourth grade, and welcome to our Tuesday discussion on our four different parts: the comprehension strategy, the comprehension skill, the genre, and the vocabulary skill. So today we're going to be taking a look at ask and answer questions um, as far as our comprehension strategy. So you read the Great Energy Debate, and there's a lot of questions that might have popped up as you're reading. New information. And you might ask yourself the questions, um, you know, you may have asked yourself, like it said here, why the narrator on page 411 says that the student had to prepare arguments for both sides. And as we read, we go back and answer that question by looking at it, and it says that the teacher wouldn't tell which side of the issue students would be debating. Therefore, they inferred that the students had to study pros and cons for each side. Okay, now on your turn, when you get to that, it says that you're going to have to ask and answer questions on your own. So I want to give you an example of that in the reading. Okay, so if I'm looking at the idea of what is energy, and I read this section, energy is the ability to do work or make a change. It also is a source of power for making electricity or doing mechanical work. All right, so if I've read that right in that section, then I might say, well, it's the ability to do work or make change. It is also a source of power. I might ask myself, well, what kind of things do we use to make that power? And then as we go on, we use the wind, the sun, fossil fuels, and biofuels to produce energy. Burning coal produces heat energy that is converted into electrical energy. We use that energy to light our houses. Solar energy comes from the sun. Solar panels convert sunlight into electrical energy. So I might ask myself a question within that and then answer it. You might also be asking yourself questions about, again, some of the types of things that are going on. What's a question that you might ask yourself? As you go back through it, ask a question and then see if you can find that answer. Okay, use the strategy ask and answer questions. So stop and ask questions about the text, and then and reading to find out, can you help to understand that new information? Okay, so again, the idea of asking a question and writing down the answer to it when you get to that point of doing your turns. All right, and that's always a good strategy to use, asking questions about the topic that you're looking at. I could come up with a bunch of questions right now that would probably spoil your ability to come up with your own in these ask and answer questions for your turns. Okay, so I'm not going to say any more about questions, but just as you read, think of a question. You're going to go back and reread, so think of that question as you go. And then write that question down on your paper that deals with your turns. Okay? Okay, next one is main idea and key details. When we look at main ideas and key details, we're going to look at, first, can we identify the key details about the main idea? Can we figure out the main idea? What's the most important idea or point the author's trying to make? And they give us one right here. If you keep using fossil fuels, eventually there will be none left. So that was the main idea of the article. As far as in that first paragraph of the Great Energy Debate. Okay, so if we go back to that first paragraph, let's just look at that first paragraph. Our energy debate will be an incredible event, but I need to study. Our teacher won't tell us which side of the debate we'll be on until the day before it happens, which means we have to prepare arguments for both sides. The debate will be next Tuesday and includes a discussion about different energy sources. Okay, so first of all, we are understanding what they're going to do, right? They're going to have a debate. When I look at, I think it said 412 there, right? 412? Yes, 412. So if I look at the first paragraph on 412 then, we may be asked to debate the future of gasoline as an energy source. If so, I would say that gasoline is made from oil, a fossil fuel. According to geologists, fossil fuels formed over hundreds of millions of years from ancient plants and animal remains. But here's the problem. Well, there's more than one problem there, and we'll discuss that in a second. We use these fuels far faster than it takes them to form. Because fossil fuels are non-renewable resources, if we keep using them, eventually there'll be none left. Plus, burning these fossil fuels pollute the air. Now, first of all, we know the age of the Earth, because of God's creation, can't be more than 10,000 years old, most likely somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000. The other thing we know is that fossil fuels, we're learning that they do form a little bit quicker than what we thought, but they do take a longer time. We also probably have a lot of untapped fossil fuels that we have in this world too. So that being said, we're still going to go and look at what is said in the article though, okay? And you can go to Answers in Genesis Kids videos and see a little bit more about that too. All right, so main idea, if we keep using fossil fuels, eventually there will be none left. And this is just in that paragraph on page 412. Fossil fuels take a long time to form. We use fossil fuels faster than it takes them to form. Fossil fuels are non-renewable resources. Okay, all three of those things lead back to the idea that if we keep using them, eventually there will be none left. Okay, now your job is to reread the first paragraph on page 413, find the key details. You're not going to list them in a graphic organizer, but on the worksheet that I put, and then determine the main idea. So 413, that first paragraph here, this one here, is what you're going to reread and come up with. What's the main idea, and then what are the key details there? Okay. If we look at another paragraph, I'd like to try and look at another paragraph with you and just kind of try and figure out what is the main idea and what are the key details. Let's look at the bottom one here. This debate is important for the people of the United States. Our country makes up only about 5% of the entire world's population, yet we consume about 30% of the world's energy. It is not a coincidence that students are asked to take part in these debates. We will probably have to make these decisions when we are adults. The debate will be difficult, but I will be ready. All right, well, the last line we know is just a closing of a writing. So what's the details we have here? What kind of things do we have? We have the fact that we consume about 30% of the world's energy. Okay. We know that kids will have to be making decisions as adults about these types of things with energy. And we also know that that's going to be difficult. So we might say that this debate is important for the kids to have and the people of the United States. Or we might say the main idea is that that the people of the United States need to think about and talk about the energy issue. And then we could list the three reasons or the three key details about that. Because we consume so much energy, and because the students will be making decisions as adults, they need to take place in these debates. Because it is a difficult debate, they need to be starting to think about it early. All right, those types of things. It's much easier to do this paragraph up here for that, as far as looking at your details. And remember, when you find your main idea, all of them should be supporting this. This should all go back to this. Okay? So when they take a long time to form, well, if we keep using fossil fuels, eventually there'll be none left because they take a long time to form. Because we use them fast, there's going to be none left. Because they're non-renewable, there's going to be none left. You see what I mean by that? This should support that. This should be supporting that. I should be able to say, you know, that this is the reason this is happening, or this supports this idea. Your genre this week is not narrative nonfiction. Narrative nonfiction tells a story. It's in story form. The girl is telling us her story, right? She's using the word I. I have to prepare this. My teacher told me this. We're in her story. And that's what it means by narrative. Somebody is telling us about the story from their point of view. So it tells a story. It presents facts and information about a topic. So in this situation, we're learning things that are truthful about energy sources and about the possible good things and bad things about the types of energy we have. And then it includes text features. Text features. Now remember, text features are the things that we see right here. Text evidence is a text feature is a text evidence. So sidebars would be our text evidence or our text feature. And you know, you always come across that when we're working on, you know, your turns or workbook. You don't have your workbook this week, so it's just the worksheet. Sidebars provide more information to help explain the topic. Sidebars are read after the main part of the text. So we read the whole thing, and then we can go back and go, what is energy, and read about that. That's our sidebar. It tells us like that. We have that in our Scholastic News all the time. Over on the sides, they'll talk about something that's not part of the main article, but it helps us to know more about what the main article is. Okay? Now your job in the Your Turn is to find and list 2 text features in the Great Energy Debate. Explain what you've learned from each feature. So your sidebars is one of those text features. So what did you learn from that sidebar? Tell me what the sidebar, you know, what is it specifically, you know, and then when you go back here, what other things do we see that's a text feature that might help us? Think about that. Okay, let's go back to that page and look at it. Includes text features. I can find Great Energy is a narrative nonfiction. It tells a story about students preparing for debate while providing facts and energy sources. It also has text features. All right, another text feature we have besides the sidebar, because that's one of those text features that you're going to have. And then these other things that you see that the author has put in there. Things that we take with a camera. Okay, I'll give you that as a clue. And then you can tell me, explain what you learned from those things. Okay? There's always something to be learned. So what did you learn from your sidebar? What did you learn from some of those pictures? All right, so I just kind of gave you your 2 text features, but you have to write and figure it out with your worksheet. All right? Latin and Greek prefixes. We have a prefix comes before the word and it changes the meaning. Non. Non means not. So if I say it's non-negotiable, if I don't have not in front of it, it means that we can make some changes. Non-negotiable means there's not any changes that can be made. A pre-test, before the actual test, right? Pre means before. Other prefixes from Greek, hyper. Hyper doesn't mean crazy, it means excessively. So if something is, if there's something that is hyper, it means there's a lot of it. Okay, not just a norm, but more than the normal amount. Bio means life. So if it's a biodome, it's a life dome or a place where something lives. Okay. Biofuels. Bio means life, so it's fuels from life, comes from living things, fuels coming from living things. And that's right here. We use wind, the sun, fossil fuels, and biofuels to produce energy. So bio means life, fuels means to give energy from or whatever. So we're going to put fuels that come from living things. All right. On your worksheet, you have two words written there, pre-plan and non-renewable. Using the Greek prefixes and looking up how they're used within the writing, I want you to come up with meanings of pre-plan and non-renewable and write them on the worksheet. Okay? So Latin and Greek prefixes, narrative nonfiction, tells a story, presents facts and information, uses text features such as sidebars and pictures. Main idea is what the paragraph's about. The details should always go back and support that main idea. And then ask and answer questions. Ask a question and have it answered in the text. Now you've already read it, so what that means is that you can come up with a question and then go back and read through and make sure that the question is answered by what you have already read. Okay? That's our Tuesday lesson. When we go through our Wednesday one, our Thursday one, I will also go over more of your vocab then.